You know what? I would prefer the other way, like, because it's more interesting to see that hand is walking around the room, like going around checking people, like the one in the Addams Family, like that one hand.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, fellow Medanauts, welcome to the June edition of X Night. And thank you for joining us here at Area X, which is the central hub of our Immersive X community. My name is Thomas Zorbach, and I have the pleasure of curating this monthly gathering together with my wonderful team at VM People. Our purpose is to provide a platform by running these events for innovators, creators, and change makers of all kinds. And tonight I'm especially happy, actually, to welcome you to Area X again. It has been a while since we were here. And I would like to give a heartfelt shout out to the brilliant world builder, Shushu, whose creativity and craftsmanship brought Area X to life. He's not here tonight, but thank you very much, Shushu. If you hear this on the live stream, on the video later, thanks that we can be here. For those who can't join us in world, we are streaming this session live, as I just said. So hello to everyone watching on their screens. Hello to all the flatties, wherever you are. And thank you to our brilliant production team, camera operators, Carlos Austin and John Harvey, for being our eyes and steady hands behind the camera and for making this possible. Before we dive into tonight's topic, I have the special pride and pleasure of sharing a world premiere with you. For the first time ever, we are now going to show you the official trailer for Immersive X 2025, our annual flagship event taking place this November. Some technical advice. Please make sure that you turn your world volume up to 80% at least. And does everybody see the visual on the screen? Please raise your hand who sees the visual. Yes, seems to be the case. So without further ado, let's watch the trailer.
All in this together.
And yet, this right is far from guaranteed, neither in every part of the US, nor in every European country. At the center of our session is a powerful and deeply personal XR experience called The Choice. I have seen it, and I can tell you it brought me to tears under my headset. I recently became a father, and it was really difficult to cope with what I've seen there. And I hope that this session inspires you to have a look at it. But yeah, this is exactly what we will talk about tonight. And I'm very, very happy that we have three amazing individuals here. Selen Lun, founder of XR Eventist and producer of the Creator Talks, who will serve as a co-host of this X Night, as well as Joanne Popinska, creator of The Choice VR, and Tom C. Hall, producer and creative partner of this impactful project. Selen, Joanne, Tom, stage is yours.
Woohoo! Clap, clap, clap! Thank you so much, Thomas. Like, I'm so happy and so honored to be here with you all. A beautiful community that you're making all together. Like, that's the whole point of VR, I think. And Joanne and Tom, thank you so much for joining us here. So before we dive into the choice, I would like to invite you all for a nice, beautiful, small trip at the rooftop. And we are just going to know each other a bit better, because rather than just an inactive talk, we would just prefer to know you, to meet you, and then come here and, talk together in a way. So please follow me to the rooftop. But before we go, like, if you have an experience with taking yourself flying up to the rooftop, please just do. But if you need help, just let us know. We will help you. We will go over the rooftop. We will make a nice, beautiful circle. And we are just going to shortly introduce ourselves. And yeah, please follow me. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Follow me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm lagging a bit.
And walkabout. Hi, walkabout.
Hello.
Hey, look
Come,
up.
come. Follow me. Come this way.
We just joined. I don't know what's happening.
Me, I don't know either.
Oh. You. I don't know what's happening.
Who's talking? Like, I hear someone is saying, like, I don't know what's happening.
It's
Me,
Jenna.
Jenna. And, yeah, I don't know. I just joined. And nice to meet
okay.
you. Sorry.
No, nice to meet you. Welcome, Jenna. Like, have you had a chance to see Thomas's introduction?
No, I don't
I
think so.
just-
They came in the
Me
later.
and Majestic
Okay.
just joined. So we don't know.
Okay, so Thomas just introduced what we are doing tonight, like in the community and X Immersive, and we had a beautiful trailer for the upcoming Immersive X Festival. And now we are going to make the interview with Joanne and Tom C. Hall, the creators of The Choice VR. But before that, we are going to take ourselves to the top, to the rooftop, because we have a beautiful view up there. We are going to make a nice circle. We are going to have an icebreaker. We are going to introduce ourselves.
Oh,
And
okay.
shortly come back to the hall and start the interview.
Ihr müsst euch so
Oh,
in den
it's
Nacken,
nice.
Nacken greifen. Mach mal.
Are you on PC or headset? Like, what's
I'm
your
on
equipment?
I'm on
headset.
PC.
Du musst das nicht so machen.
Oh, it's
In den
it.
Nacken greifen und
Ja,
dann
Mann,
die
hätte-
Seite,
Okay.
die Taste mit dem
So you
Mittelfinger
can
drücken.
grab
Und
yourself
dann hast
from
du so
your
ein Ding in
neck.
der Hand.
You see?
Wirklich,
Oh,
ja.
wow.
Den Mittelfinger runterdrücken. Du hast an der Seite vom Controller so einen Knopf,
Yeah,
wo der
you
Mittelfinger
can grab
normalerweise
yourself
drauf
from
liegt.
your neck.
Mit dem du
Aber
Grabber
wirklich, ja.
sozusagen. Der Grabber, genau. Wenn du den mal zumachst,
If I may
und
help,
dann hast du so ein Ding in der Hand.
you can just
Oh ja,
grab behind
und dann
your
geht's schon los.
and you can bring the thing you equip. Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Oh my god,
Nice.
Lovely.
I didn't do that, as usual.
Maren, do you need help?
Okay.
Yeah, I think I need a little help so I can jump.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
But
if you bring your controller behind your neck and then grab the typical grab button, hold it, and then you can bring it forward if you want to. You press the trigger, then you activate the flight. And you can
We know now.
Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Look, like the rainbow and raining and that beautiful forest. So let's make a circle. Let's not just, corner ourselves, but let's make a circle that we can see each of us. Majestic Fox, you can come here a little bit more. Yeah, perfect. And Jenna, you're good. Walkabout and digitally wire, like maybe walkabout. Can you just move your right a little bit? Yes, awesome. And yeah, now I see you all. Awesome. Great. So and again, thank you so much. Like, it's great to have you all here. This is such a pleasure and honor to be here with you all. I'm Selen Lun. I am an artist. I'm from Turkey, and I'm the founder of XR Ventus and Lun Family Company, a production company, and then XR Initiative. So I want to ask you all to introduce yourself very shortly, like your name, your country, and maybe if you would like to share your profession, if you're an artist or creator, and that's it. So we can go something like starting from here, like I did mine. So Majestic Fox, you can do your introduction, and we can go around like this, and then later we can go up and start the interview with Joanne and Tom.
Mm-hmm. Can I say my real name, or I'm not allowed to say it? So
Whatever, like you preferred name, preferred nouns, it's all up to you.
Well, the game is Majestic Fox, and my real name's Holly. I'm from the UK, and I basically do a bit of art in real life, but not as much though. But I do a bit of drawing and colouring, and basically that's all it about me, really. I'm just too nervous to say much about it.
No, awesome. Like we are just creating a safe space in here, so just feel comfortable and share whatever you want. Like, Perfect. And Jenna?
Hi, I'm Jenna. I'm from the UK, South Wales. I'm 25. You didn't have to mention your age, Majestic. Don't worry about it. I'm 25 years old, and I like shopping a lot, and I like going out with friends, socializing, groups. Just going out, socializing, going different places, and just shopping on social media, and going out in the open, and just making new friends, I guess.
Nice.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Walkabout?
Hi, hello, I'm Walkabout. Real name Martin. I'm a landlord. I'm also in the UK. Just saw Digitally Wired was online and in this place, so I thought I'll come and see what this is all about.
Thank you.
And now you're stuck here.
With us.
I'm Thomas from Germany, and I am involved with the Immersive X crew.
Well, my name is Gerald, as you can see, and I'm from Munich in Germany. I'm working as an advisor with my company, and I give advice about enterprise metaverse platforms. That means not such things like VRChat, but more things like Glue or Author or ROM, Engage, things like that. Hi.
Hello, I'm Nopond. I'm from Germany, from Cologne. I'm a freelance artist, programmer, and game designer. I was lately making a mixed reality theater game in Hamm in Germany. And besides that, I also started to work on a VR game. And I make a daily newsletter called Nopond's Nerd Letter that is all about this cool nerd stuff. So that's me. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, hi, I'm Christian. Yeah, nice to meet you all. Yeah, I'm also from Germany, Frankfurt, and yeah, also yeah, XR consultant and yeah, programmer, and yeah, building projects and so yeah.
I introduced myself already at the podium, but not to Majestic and Jenna. My name is Thomas. I'm the host of this event. I'm running Immersive X with my team, and I'm very happy that you are here tonight. And I'm really curious about the conversation with Joanne and Tom later on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom. I'm partners with Joanne, both creatively and in life. We're Canadians currently spending a lot of time in Europe, so Canada, the world. We're both VR filmmakers, primarily in interactive. So we make stuff in game engines, but it's documentary. So the choice is what we're here to talk about today, but we have other projects that we work on about using immersive media for documentary style factual.
Yeah, and I'm John. I'm a VR filmmaker, also a curator, and yeah, Tom already said it all.
Awesome. That's great. So thank you so much, all. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. And again, like, I just want to remind you all, this is a safe space. We just want to share, you know, we share what we want to share. And what we don't want to share, we don't share. That's it. Okay, just know that. So feel free. And now we can go down. I think we're going to fly down and we are going to grab our seats and start the interview conversation. Yeah, let's go.
This direction, Majestic.
Inside. We had an icebreaker introduction, like we introduced ourselves at the rooftop. So now we are going inside and taking seats, and we are going to start interview. So please join us. Let's go. Follow me. Follow me, please. Let's go.
And then teleport to the done that way before. Yep.
Yeah, Jenna, like,
Can I grab him? Sorry, I was just making sure. You know, we normally do activities on this day for an hour, but Walkabout invited us here to do this, and I don't mind doing it out of the time that we do activities. We have like a VR church thing on Rec Room and VRChat, so we just we bring some friends along if they do come in.
Okay. I mean, you can bring friends, sure.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for letting me.
Of course. So let's
Nice
go
to meet
and
you.
start. Like, follow me, grab your seats,
Hi.
take
Hi.
your seats.
Hi.
Yeah.
Where are we? Everyone is comfortable. Just also not be on the very much back. I think you would like to hear us. So come to the front.
Kannst du klicken und dann setzt der Avatar sich.
I can hear
Stage
it.
is amplified.
Can you hear
Come
it?
to the front. Like, the VIP front seats are all yours. And please feel free to sit side by side.
We just like we're shy, so we go.
Oh.
I was a bit
Stefan, ich
shy.
schnell.
I'm
Dann,
not used to
vergiss es.
it. That's why.
Oh ja,
Yeah, don't be shy. You can come here.
das sieht verrückt
I can't
aus.
move.
Okay.
You can come to the front.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
I'm a bit nervous myself. The new
I
people.
can't move. I don't know
So
why.
I think,
I know.
I
You're
think
in
if you
the...
come from
you're
from
people
the
getting
back
trapped in the
to
chairs.
front, you will hear
Yeah,
us
but
even
I stand up and
Okay,
the
let's go.
joystick isn't
Let's
working
go.
anymore. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Go sit by and walk
Oh,
about.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can come. You can come to the
The
front. We
joystick should
have.
get
We
you out
have.
of there.
We have
Maybe
the
if you jump
seats.
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, it seems to work.
I think. Yeah,
VIP.
Christian, you can come front. Like you will hear us even better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We are Kurt. Come. Come grab your seat in the very front. Come and get your VIP seats in here.
I cannot move. I would, but I cannot move for whatever reason.
Oh. For a reason? Okay.
I only can
Okay.
stand up.
The fact that you're a 7-foot tall space cat makes it much more funny to watch.
Yeah. Did you try like pushing your left joystick?
His joystick's
yeah,
busted.
joystick and jumping is not working. Maybe is there a freeze option
Oh,
or
something's
something?
happening.
Changing avatars? I don't know.
You look like
Imagine
you're
people behind
stuck
him was
the
in,
chair.
you know, he was in the way, and then people
Oh,
couldn't
wait,
see
maybe
behind
I
him,
tried
so they had
this.
to come to the front.
Oh.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's the only way to come to front.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like it's working.
No.
Well, the stage is
Yes.
amplified, so I think our voices will carry, no problem.
Yeah. Sorry for
Okay.
the interruption.
So if in some point you cannot hear us well, just please just tell us, okay? But right now, I think we are going to start. So, right? Like there's no one back. So I think we can start. And just before we start, like we introduce ourselves, and maybe you have experienced the choice and maybe you didn't experience the choice. Like Thomas mentioned, he experienced the choice, I experienced the choice, but now choice has other chapters, like part 2 and part 3 are here, and I only experienced the part 1. And
Yep.
before we start with Joanne and Tom, we are going to show you the trailer so you can have a better kind of more understanding about the experience. If the video is ready to roll, or we can just start with the
Wow.
first question.
Oh,
yeah,
sure
okay.
now. There you go, yeah.
Okay, so this is the trailer for chapter 1. Which
My husband and I met and very quickly decided that we were going to run away together and get married and have kids. And then, to my surprise, we actually got pregnant on the first try. And we were really planning a healthy pregnancy, and that's not what ended up happening. I ended up bleeding in the middle of the night. And like I said, I had really bad mom brain. So when I woke up and I saw the blood, I was like, okay, maybe it's not that bad. The nurse didn't really talk to me about it and said that everything was fine and that the baby was fine. The blood was not circulating through her heart. The fact that doctors in Texas are allowed to lie, legally allowed to lie, and then legally allowed to not treat a miscarriage. I don't know what my future's gonna be like.
Oh yeah, and that's a chapter 2 and 3 poster.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk after watching the trailer, honestly. Um, but yeah, this is about the chapter 1 is about what was her name again? I
Kristen.
forgot her name.
So let me
Kristen.
tell you a few words, like with chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3. So I'm Polish Canadian. Most of you, I think all of you here today are from Europe. So I'm pretty sure you heard about Poland, my home country, and what was happening in Poland for the last, I don't know, a decade now, with the very conservative government who was attacking a lot of groups, minorities, and immigrants. And at some point, they aimed at women and reproductive rights. We had big women's strikes in 2016, 2017, and they were trying, at that point, they were starting to try to ban abortion in Poland, which today it's pretty much banned, and even the new government is not really trying to do anything with that. So the project started with me wanting to say something about it and reach mostly people in between or anti-choice to show them the women, the people who decided to have an abortion, and show it from their perspective, and allow, and that's why VR allow the audience to have a conversation with person who had the choice. And in 2021, we premiered with chapter 1, the trailer you just saw with Kristen. And recently we were able to premiere finally with chapter 2 and 3. Always my goal was to tell the more broad story, to show broader spectrum of what abortion is about, of the situations, because Kristen's story is very, very emotional. And it tells you a lot. It moved a lot of hearts in the last few years, but I also wanted to show some other situations, also with people who did have an abortion. Yeah, so briefly, that's that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's like, that's, I think, as a maybe a personal question, but like, I wonder, when you were starting this project, the choice, were there some kind of defining moments that you feel like maybe I shouldn't do this, like if it will get you in trouble, or like
Oh yeah,
or right?
definitely. And like the only reason why I really started it was because I lived in Canada. And in Canada, I knew, like from talking with my friends, talking with people at work, just, observing the society, I knew that I would not be ostracized. In Poland, I would never start it because I would not be able to even start working on it, I think. And of course, like initially, I thought that I will be able also to gather resources, funding, and stuff like that for this project in Canada. That was my hope. This didn't happen initially. For the next chapters, we were able to get some artistic funding. But even, like talking to people about this project made some people stop talking with me, some people in Poland, some people like my friends from before.
Oh no.
Yeah. So some of them, of course, like everybody in Poland is very conservative, very Catholic. So I reached out to some friends when I was starting working on it, telling them that, hey, just so you know, this is what I'm working on, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but like just letting you know ahead. And some people got back to me saying that that's fine. Even if we have different views, they appreciate me being able to speak about what I feel and how I feel. But some people literally emailed me that I will not be quoting, but some people stopped being my friends. Yeah, I forgot about it.
But it's kind of like the challenge you take and what you face, and because as you know, you may imagine like making an XR project is really hard work. Like it really kind of makes you question yourself. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? You know, like what's the point? So I think even when your core is very strong, because of the challenges you faced, like people ignoring you, or you know, they kind of, you know, don't want to be a part of it, like, or they stop talking to you. Like those are the things that affects your life as a person. So you are like, you know, you had a choice, right?
Yeah. You know, because I was now thinking what kept me going. So when I started this project, I very like from the beginning, I was thinking about doing it in VR, using VR for its very powerful perspective that it gives to the audience, putting you in the middle of the story, and I wanted to very much use that. But then when I started the actual first steps on the project, I built a website where people started sharing their stories with us, Instagram, Facebook, and then people started reaching out to me, and I was shocked how many people reached out to me via email, Skype. It existed at that time. Just wanting to share their personal stories because they felt that they cannot share it with families, they cannot share it with friends. And I was surprised because I was like, you know, filmmaker, nobody, like today, some people in VR world knows our work, but at that point I was completely anonymous, like super, super anonymous. And I had like, I don't know, 200 followers on Instagram. And so, you know, nobody. And people just seeing that I'm open to it, they were then sharing their private stories with me. And this made me really, really feel strong about why I have to make this project. And this weren't people from Poland, these were people from US, from Canada. So that was shocking.
Oh wow, it's such a wonderful point. Like because again, you mentioned like we are such a medium, like this is not a traditional media, like this is not what we used to see. Also, like those stories are, because of the taboo and is super private, like even on the traditional media, we don't see it. We don't see those stories. So for this very private matter, for very private subject matter, you chose that medium, especially VR, and maybe that's also why, because I mean it's working on this way. Like maybe if you just make, because you're a filmmaker, you know this, like if you make a documentary about it, like, you know, maybe it's just going to be a 2D documentary, still it's going to be powerful for sure, but the difference of VR is kind of showing up in here, I guess. And also, because Tom is here with us tonight, we are, you know, super, super grateful for this opportunity, because Tom can also help us to understand more about the technology you developed, because, you know, you were like using that photogrammetry, I think.
Sort of, not, but yeah. So the thing that we developed for this project, which one of the things that was kind of the core reasons about why to use this medium, was the idea, and Joanne here actually wrote her PhD on it, is like the feeling of having presence with another person in a virtual space, which I think everybody in VRChat kind of has an understanding of that feeling about you're in a virtual space, they're in the virtual space with you. But of course, you know, even though today is not a good, I mean, Selen, like you're like some sort of, you know, intergalactic cyber angel creature, and you're a princess, and I'm Link. Like it doesn't. There's a degree of like unreality to this medium in this presentation.
Yeah.
So for the choice, we wanted to be able to create that feeling that you're sharing space with somebody, but that they look lifelike and they look real in a way that allows you to connect with them as a real person and not as like a representation of a real person. So in the trailer, you could see that, you know,
You
the
couldn't
scenes,
figure it was flat, but
well, it's flat, but
Yeah.
you can see in the trailer that the scenes are all illustrated, and they're all quill illustrations, which is kind of like tilt brush, but like these spatial basic stroke illustrations, but Kristen herself and Lee and Dan and Michaela in the new chapters are photorealistic, and they have shape and volume. So we record a depth map of them, but then we also record a stereoscopic image. So there's like a 3D image, so like each eye sees something different, and that little bit of detail through the stereo makes things like faces and eyes and your skin just become much more lifelike. So you have this feeling that in 6 Degrees of Freedom, which you're only sitting, but like just in your natural sitting space, that they're there with you, but you have these like micro details from the stereo that makes their expressions and their emotional state come across very clearly in fidelity. And they're kind of, because they're the photoreal, they're kind of their personal story that they're telling to you about their experience. They're kind of the anchor in which all these other illustrations are kind of this like kind of musical in their representation in the story. And that technology took a long time for us to figure out how to do, because the other thing is, especially chapter 1, is we had absolutely no money. And the pandemic actually was a big help for that, because then a lot of people were available for working for no money. But being able to do that at scale that we could afford to do was a key thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was also going to ask you about the production side of the project, because this is also another big subject when we talk about XR works. So you started with kind of like zero budget, and you started to develop this technology, which you made. You already had that, but you also started to develop it on Unreal Engine or Unity, or like where did you start to develop it? Like which engines you use?
Our backgrounds are in film production, both in the camera actually in 3D movies, if you remember those. They don't make those anymore. And then we got into visual effects, and because of that, we came at it from a VFX perspective, so we started in Unreal Engine. Is Unreal Engine 4.22 or something. It was a long time ago. And
wow,
the thing is that we started with the idea that everything was PC VR, and I remember actually at Oculus Connect, one of them showing John Carmack an early prototype on a laptop, and then him being like, "I don't understand why it's in 3D," and I was like, "Okay, well, whatever." Well, because his argument, it was those circle things, if you ever remember back in those days where you'd catch him at the conference and a bunch of people would be talking to him, and he was arguing why 3D is like stereo 3D is really powerful and is all you really need. You don't need 6DoF. And we're both from the 3D cinematography world, which was, back in the day, you'd have these 2 big cameras and a beam splitter and these motors, and then you'd have to wear the 3D glasses on the screen, and like we were working on very crappy things. Well, most of it was crappy, and also like really incredible things like IMAX 3D projects. And it's like, okay, so we've seen the whole range of what the stereo left and right image medium.
There is actually a very specific moment when I realized that we do need 6DoF, and as 3D, as amazing as it was, and Tom is really good in all technical aspects. So when, like for some test footage, he filmed me talking about the project in stereoscopic 3D, and like for many people, VR is like they define VR as already 180, 360, 180 3D. They say it's VR, and I was showing some test footage at a festival, and I was not officially pitching. I was officially pitching and workshopping another project, and this one I just had on a headset, and I was showing it to people, around during parties, during talks in corridors. So we were standing, and I was looking at a person who was watching it in a headset, and I saw her. I don't know if my gestures here are readable, but she did this. She put her head on her hand, and then she rested her head. And I knew that the whole image rolled with her because it's not 6DoF. And it was oh shit, I need to do something about it. So this was one aspect. And the other aspect was that I'm sociologist. Before becoming filmmaker, I was that. And when I was analyzing reproductive rights conversation, pro-choice people, anti-choice people, the doubts and everything, I saw like certain aspects that I wanted to include in this VR experience. And one of it is what was making you feel that you're talking to a person that is mentally close to you and physically close to you. And I needed the audience to feel this physical closeness. It's called proximity in sociology. So proximity is the mixture of physical distance and emotional distance. So like with Tom, we're a couple, so in real life we do sit close to each other. With somebody who's not my spouse or like distant friend, I would be like a meter away, meter and a half. And I wanted to, in VR, to reflect that. So I needed you to feel the space, the presence, but also the distance. And 2 years later, after Tom telling me it's impossible, and me telling him, but you have to, because otherwise the project does not make sense. He spent 2 years, thank you for pandemics, on trying to figure out how to combine. And I knew that we need to basically combine volumetrics and stereoscopy. And, there is a lot of volumetrics only technologies, like techniques and filming methods and stuff. We were testing them separately. But with those, the people that were filmed, they look like avatars or ghosts, like Princess Leia from Star Wars. It does not feel like actual human. It feels like ghost or hologram. And I very much wanted to avoid that for the reasons that it takes an hour to describe. But bottom line, what Tom said, we wanted it to feel realistic enough and natural enough. And that's why we combined volumetric and stereoscopy.
Yeah.
I mean, please go on, Tom.
What I'm saying is, and that was something that it took a long time for us to figure out how to, because we wanted to be, this is another aspect that was very important to us, is coming from, like both a film production commercial aspect, but also having worked in documentary as well, is knowing that we needed a lot of flexibility. And one of the big problems we needed to solve with our process is we wanted to be able to sit down with somebody and just record for 5 hours and not have any, we end up with a lot of data, but it not be impossible for us to navigate and work with. And like during the, I wish we cued that other video when we were talking before, but anyway, so during the pandemic, just before the pandemic, we were invited to the Canadian delegation at South by Southwest to just like take part in their Canada promotion, whatever. And we decided, okay, well, let's take our VR volumetric camera equipment, throw it in luggage, bring a couple of lights, some sound equipment, and we'll just go down to South by and we'll interview several people there. And like Joanne was working on scheduling interviews and stuff. And of course, that was just when the pandemic started. So South by Southwest was canceled, but we had our flights booked. But because we were flexible and light enough, we just needed our luggage, our checked luggage filled with our equipment. And we went down there and we filmed with them. We filmed with Kristen and Michaela, who are the two people who were in Chapter 1 and in Chapter 3. And the border closed the day after we filmed, and we took a bunch of connecting flights and walked into Canada with that piece of luggage. And it's like if we were doing like some, I don't know, Metastage or something, 40 views or something, that would never have been practical. Like the cost, the infrastructure, everything, it just, that flexibility as documentary filmmakers allowed us to take that kind of opportunity. And that was the big thing that took a long time to figure out, is like, how do we scale this down in such a way that we can just go into somebody's, living room and throw down a green screen, or for the choice we used a black screen, throw down a screen, light them, set the camera, hit record, and then just talk to them. And that's something that even today, I don't think there's any real volumetric solutions that offer that flexibility, which is really important. Because like I was even thinking a while back when we were cutting chapter 2 with the couple, it's two people that you're talking to volumetrically, is that there's nothing from take one that's used. Because that first take is just breaking the ice, because we record for like 30 minutes or so. It's like, hey, you want to have a glass of water? So it's like that first 30 minutes is just them getting comfortable with the process. And it's like, if I'm paying $10,000 a minute and I have to use a soundstage, and it's like, I want, we're going to get this, 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 and this, and this, and get out. For like interviewing somebody about something that could be very traumatic or emotionally heavy for them, it's a stand in this giant green blender, is surrounded by cameras and lights, and tell us your life story. It wouldn't work for us.
And also because the people who were interviewed for this project are not camera trained, so the goal was that they would be sharing their story probably for the first time. Makaila was already in slightly different place, but overall, most of the interviews are with people who share it for the first time, who never were on camera. And for them, they look at this camera and they feel stressed. They look at lights and they feel stressed. Surrounding them with all these, bazillion devices would make them much more uncomfortable. And this is actually something that accidentally became our big asset, not having money. Because we couldn't afford a crew. So it was always like for filming, it was just me and Tom. And so Tom would take care of every little thing that is technical, so lights, camera, sound, all of that. And I would be there to interview those people. And there was nobody else. And, a lot of these conversations is really deep, really personal, really emotional. And they told us, I think after every single interview, they approached us and they said, guys, you made amazing atmosphere and I could just speak with you because it was intimate, because it was private. So, and I didn't think about it before. I just couldn't afford to bring anybody else other than the two of us. And this worked really well for the project.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And I wished we had a sound guy until we're doing another project, and we did have a sound guy, and he was so annoying to the interview. Not about reproductive rights, but something else. He was so annoying to the interviewee. He's like, you know what? For a sound guy, he doesn't shut up. But no, that was a benefit of like having the small scale and that flexibility and people feeling comfortable, because we didn't feel like exploitative. We didn't feel like it's this big thing that they're committing to, that it's just like, no, we just have this quiet space. There's Joanne, there's the camera, there's me, and it's just talking. And that aspect comes across in the finished experience. So to go back to what you mentioned before, so we started Unreal Engine, we abandoned Unreal Engine. It's in Unity. It's only for Quest because we just haven't had the time to port it to PC. But it's just like, it's a single headset. You're in there alone by yourself with your headset, and they're alone with you in the experience. And that's the recreation of kind of that process they had with Joanne having that conversation with them.
This story of turning this advantage into a big advantage, is so important. Like, it's so important to notify, for people who are starting, or like people who are going to challenges, because somehow while producing an XR work, even the subject matter is not that important or a social matter. Even if you're just making an XR game, something about mushroom or butterflies, the thing is, you have to be very resourceful, and you have to know your material very good, what you're working with, what kind of free resources you have, and how can you turn that challenges into advantages. So it's a great example what you did with what you have. This is so inspiring, so encouraging. And I really would like to ask you, you mentioned, Joanne, about, it was very hard for them to sit and just, talk to the camera. It's the stories, the life experiences are kind of heavy enough to even tell yourself, but now you're telling to another person, and your process with them is so important. You gave them that safe space, actually, and they trusted you. So what's kind of like that? You also earlier you mentioned before, you had kind of lots of stories that kept you going because you received all that life experiences from people who experienced abortion. And now on the part 2 and 3, we have the other stories. Like we have a couple, we have another abortion story of a woman. Do you see some kind of a mutual point that you realize, like, oh, this is kind of like the same thing that they are coming through, they are feeling through, or like, what is your take on, facing those stories? Because I think you're also going through with them while you're, encountering them. What's your take? And because now we have 3 stories, is it going to go on with more stories?
No.
What do you think?
So we filmed more interviews, but first of all, I didn't have resources to produce more than 3 chapters, but I also didn't feel the need. I very much felt the need to produce more than 1, because Kristen's story, and Thomas mentioned that he cried in a headset, it is very, very, very heavy story, very emotional for her, for the audience. And my goal with this project was not to just show that, but to show overall what it is, like with her, it's systemic, like the system not allowing for her to have it, even if she needed it medically, and then it destroyed her and her whole family, and like she doesn't have children because of that, even if she very much wanted to. But I wanted to show situations that are more, less about fighting the system and fighting for your rights, but also showing what is the potential process, the decision process that you're going through. And I found that one very interesting situation was from Lee and Dan. So first we met Lee in Canada. We filmed her before Kristen even. And Lee was in her 40s when she got pregnant accidentally. And when I was analyzing the discourse, it was a lot about accusing teenagers of not knowing how to use contraception, and then being, reckless and just having accidental sex, and then, okay, abortion is my anti-conception. Even if I wanted to show that there are very different situations, and we also have to, as a society, make room for those. So Lee was in her 40s. She never wanted to have a child. She wanted to have her, I don't know the medical procedure. She wanted to have medical procedure before to not be able to have children. And they didn't allow her in progressive Canada because they kept asking, hey, you might change your mind in the future. She haven't. And then she met her current husband, Dan, and then they talked together that they both don't want to have children. They have enough things in their life. They feel really fulfilled, and they don't want to make family of 3 or more. They just want to be together. And they got pregnant accidentally, and then it really hit them hard because they were both pro-choice. They both were very sure of their personal choices that they already made. But then the decision itself was more emotional and more involving than they thought before. And especially because they were in their 40s, so this probably was their last chance to ever become parents. And initially we interviewed Lee, and when we were talking with her, she was talking a lot about how Dan was a very important part of the whole decision process, of her support, but also they were making the decision together. And I thought that male perspective is very often omitted. And, it's hard to say that, in this very, very female issue, should we give the voice to men or not? I decided to invite Dan after talking with Lee, and she agreed, just to shed his perspective, which was very interesting. And also when you watch the chapter with them, you can see that there are some differences, what they think and how they decide, but they supported each other. And it was later on, actually, it was last fall when I realized that even with filming them separately, it might be interesting to make this chapter with combining the two of them, so the audience has an impression that you were talking to both of them together. So it's slightly different narratively, and it does feel there are. I don't want to talk about it, not to spoil it to you, but when you watch it, you will have some takeaways of your own and interpretations of who is thinking what and how. And I found it really interesting. And then the third interview that made it to the final experience is Makaila, and she is tackling very big taboo until today, which is more than one abortion. So she had 2 abortions, both of them just because she was having this accidental sex. And first she literally says, I was a dumb teenager and I was on drugs, on alcohol, and that's it. And then with her second pregnancy, she was involved in relationship, but then it didn't work out. So she talks about something that is very much taboo, even in countries where abortion is allowed and available. Like people say, oh, with one, you should already have learned, So I thought that it would be interesting to bring her perspective because the conversation is much wider and much deeper. What we quote unquote allowed people or not. My stance is that people should decide for themselves. And with these 3 very different perspectives, very different situations, I think we cover enough ground. And I don't think there's many more situations. There is a huge variety of them, both about how it happens, how people deal with that. But I thought these 3 chapters, it's enough to give you something to think, something to consider when you take the headset off. And I don't need to analyze every single situation.
Right. It's enough to say something about our bodies, our rights. This is the kind of the line that we draw. We have to have our choices and rights on our bodies, not some kind of a management, some kind of a government or company. No one can come to you and tell you what you're going to do with your body or not. This is inclusive. This is an inclusive subject, where we can also include all that other type of matters about the changes that you would decide to make with your body. So before we wrap up, I also, would like to first, I'm so thankful for all you share with us. This is, I see it as a form of, maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't see it as that way, but it's form of an activism. For me, this is how I see, because you fought in every step to make this project work and to share with the people. You shared with so many people from all over the world. And now it's there, and it's on Metastore, and anyone
and
can
I wanted to
do
say,
the choice.
usually I say if you have a headset, but all of you here probably have a headset. So the first chapter is available on Meta for free. So we didn't want to charge people and make $2 on that. So the first chapter, it's on Meta, and then with 2 new chapters, we had our world premiere at South by in March, and now we are having our European premiere at the Sunny Side of the Dog this month. So
congratulations!
Thank you. And after a while of circulating at festivals, we will make, of course, the 2 new chapters available as well. But for now, if you want to, please watch the first one.
Oh, this is so awesome and wholesome, and now we are going to get into, if you have any questions for Tom and Joanne, please feel free to digest first, okay? Just, you can take a moment and breathe. But I would, while you're having a breath, and I just want to ask you, you have another project, and what are your next steps? What
So,
are you doing right now?
We do. So one project that we were working on, and it will probably stay for a while as a prototype one, is the soft skills training with Johns Hopkins University in the US. It was sort of stopped because of it was about DEI, so diversity and inclusion. So, with the new administration, we don't know what will happen with this project, but it was very interesting collaboration. So we were using similar method as in the choice. So question and answer, our filming technique, so this combination of volumetric and stereoscopic. And the idea for that one is that you are a faculty, you're a professor, and a student comes to you to talk about their issues. And their issues might be they're transgender and they have problems at the campus, they are not white, and that causes them some problems. So stuff like that. Very interesting, very interesting. But for now, we are on pause. And then our next project, our next documentary project in VR, it's called Reich of Ashes, and it's about Holocaust. It will be actually a combination of interactive VR documentary with physical installation, because huge subject on VR in VR world is how to distribute VR projects and how to make them interesting for, physical spaces. And we thought that combining VR narrative with physical elements as an installation will make it interesting. And we were just having series of consultations with Holocaust museums in Europe and in North America. They're very, very interested. So we're happy to start production soon. Yep.
Amazing. This is, wow, so exciting. You have so much thing going on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, sharing all the great insights about the choice. Now I even know better and more, because before that session, actually we met with Joanne on 2022, yes, it was 2022, and I organized a physical event where people can come and join and experience the choice on headset. It was a free event, and with a kind of like a limited capacity, but Joanne was so generous to help us with, giving the keys and also joining us for a question and answer. So, it's so awesome. It's something like a full circle moment. Like it was on physical space. You were on Zoom. Now we are on VR. And next time, hopefully, we will be on a festival, so on a
in
panel,
person.
maybe. Yeah, we are going to try all that forms, guys. But yeah, do you have any questions, or maybe not even question, maybe something that
Thomas
you would really like to share?
Yeah, first of all, thanks very much, Selen, for leading the conversation, and thanks to you, Joanne and Tom, for sharing the story behind the story. As I told you that I have saw the first chapter, we'll definitely check out the second and the third too. But as a storyteller that I'm myself, you always have to ask yourself, what's the best medium to transport an audience, to get people involved in what you want to, the story you want to tell. So you could have also told this story. I know about your background, but you could have made a series of YouTube videos. Or you could have, published a series of articles. Why do you think that XR, VR is the best medium to tell the story of the choice?
So that was very easy for me. So I wanted the audience to feel that they have this conversation. I didn't want them to watch a documentary. I didn't want them to feel that they are a witness of something, some testimony, that they are a reader of an article. I wanted them to feel that they are a friend who is listening to another friend. And this is for various psychological, sociological reasons how this personal interaction works. Basically, so I told you that I am a sociologist with my education, but I also used to work with groups, with conflicts, with group dynamics. And many times when we were working with either stereotypes or conflict, the best way to solve situation that was rising was just putting people together and having them talk with each other. And the same with stereotypes, and even like when you travel, it is said that it changes your mind when you meet people from different cultures, when you talk with them. It's not even about making friends and having deep conversation, but just being yourself and meeting those people yourself. So I didn't want people to be educated. I wanted them to feel it and to take part in it. And there's no other medium than VR. The only other way is to actually put people together. But this is actually something very interesting, how the choice slightly is better than the actual conversation. And this is the reason why we asked to interview only people who are sharing it for the first time. So if you have person who is just talking and talking and talking about their life experience and they are repeating the same story, the way they talk changes because they train themselves. They learn from the questions that they have at various meetings, and then instead of talking naturally, they are already giving answers to the questions that were reasoned before. And the way, like, it sounds trained, it sounds prepared. So I didn't want that. And again, like when you're listening to a lecture, when you're watching YouTube, you feel that. And I don't want to say fakeness because it is not fake. It's just not very fresh and very raw because it's not shared for the first time. So I wanted to achieve that effect.
Yeah. And you really did a great job on that. As I said,
Thank you.
I felt the impact. And I mean, you have mentioned it. It's such a big difference to see the trailer here on a flat screen and sitting in front of a person and it feels like she is telling the story to you in that moment. And that is a big difference in terms of what you feel when you experience it instead of watching something.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that because that was one line summarizing it. Yeah.
Any other comments from the audience?
Like, can I ask you all to share maybe one word about maybe how you feel or what you take from this session? Because it can be anything, but literally it moved me a lot. Like, not only because I had the experience, I also had the experience 3 years ago. But it had a great impact on me, and I don't know any other experience as choice. So this is why it is still very, very, very up to date. We still have that subject matter. Unfortunately, we are still talking about our rights and maybe with one word, if you would like to share your take, what kind of an impact it had on you, the whole conversation or meeting with Joanne and Tom.
Gerald wants to start, obviously.
Yeah, when you talked, I went into my headset, into the browser, and looked for the choice -vr.com. And then I learned that I had to download it in a kind of app in my headset, and that was what I just did. Yes, I just downloaded the app for the chapter 1, and I have never heard about your project before. And from that point of view, thank you very much for your input and for the idea to bring it to us, Thomas. And I can promise you that I will watch it right now when we are ready here, and because I'm very curious what you did there, and perhaps I can ask you how long does it take the whole show
It's
chapter
about
1?
25 minutes, so it's interactive and it slightly varies how long it is, but more or less 25 minutes. And if you want to, like after watching, if you will feel that you want to talk with us, reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. It's very easy to find me, so
Great, then thank you very much.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
So,
maybe
Gerald, you wrote his curiosity.
I would wanted to say exactly the same word actually. I'm curious actually about the technical aspects, how you did it, but also on the experience itself, because I also never heard about this before, so I think I will also check it out.
Awesome. Also, I want to remind you all about the time because on VR we most of the times lose the time. Like we have, like officially we have 10 minutes left, but of course we can go on. But like, yeah, like if you have a burning question, just please ask us, ask them, and feel free to. Yeah, go on to the terrace and continue on terrace with the talks. But if you don't have a question, it's also great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Christian?
Just wanted, to also say that I experienced the choice today, and it was really a great experience. And like Thomas said, was really touching, and it was great to get some background here from the production and how you also the technical aspects was really interesting to get more to know more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know how to send those emojis.
I don't know either. I know how to take my sword out. That's about it.
You're on Quest, right?
Yep.
Joanne. On your right controller, press B and A at the same time.
At the same time, if I disappear, I will be back.
No.
Oh,
Let's not lose.
okay. Did I
Yeah,
do
then you
this?
got the little quick menu and the expressions.
Emoji land. Yeah,
I
I
see
think.
them, but I don't know how to select them.
Do it with
I'm
the
very
joystick.
bad in.
Yeah, on your
You-
joystick, you're just rotating and choosing it. Like, oh, like, yeah.
So, Selen, did you just invite us to the terrace? Should we
Yes, I think
move
we can
the
go and
conversation?
enjoy the
So,
beautiful terrace and the rainbow,
Okay.
which I
Yeah.
like.
Enjoy
so
the
much.
beautiful rain. Thank you
Yes,
very
the
much,
rain.
guys. And hope to see you again at one of our events.
Thank
Maybe
you
in
very
Immersive
much for
X this
having
year.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, somebody's
so
having a beer.
much. Oh yeah. Oh, we had a virtual beer. Awesome. Let's go.
Hallo, hallo, hallo.
Schon am Start mit der Party? Ja, wird dann gleich bald losgehen. Gut. Ich komme auch
Ja,
kurz vorbei.
dein,
Ich mache eine kleine Pause.
dein Avatar ist irgendwie in der Klatschanimation gefangen. Er hört nicht mehr auf.
Und ich kann mich immer noch nicht bewegen. Naja, ist vielleicht das neue Firmware-Update. Who knows? Komisch. Muss ich mal